Ivona Butcher, welcome to Acquiring Minds.
Thank you, Will.
Ivona, I saw you on stage at MIT, at MIT's ETA conference. I was impressed by you and your story, which has many distinguishing features to it. Among them, that you bought your business in the Czech Republic, your home country. So let's get right into it. Ivona, a little background on you, please, to start.
So I come from the Czech Republic, from a small town. I went through my studies there. I had my first job as an economist in the Czech Republic. And I started my career, finished my doctorate degree. And then I met my husband and we moved to the US to go to business school together. That's where I first heard of search funds. But first we needed to have other career, pay off debt and things like that. So after business school, after Kellogg, I started working in New York for an investment firm. It was one of those big dreams come true, and I was designing investment strategies, and it was a really cool job. But entrepreneurship was like the ultimate goal in the end.
And so say more about entrepreneurship being the ultimate goal, and tie that in maybe to hearing about search funds in business school. You and your husband both liked the concept. You and your husband both wanted to be entrepreneurs. By the way, spoiler for the audience, you did this with your husband, another interesting feature of the story, but that's why I'm asking about your husband. So say more about your affinity for search and entrepreneurship broadly.
Yeah, so for the first time, I heard of search funds at Kellogg School of Management. One of our good classmates, a good friend, acquired a business in the US. And I mean, to me, immediately the idea sounded amazing. So I don't need any amazing idea. I don't need my own money, and I can run a business. I mean, that sounds great, right?
Okay, yeah.
But first I had I needed to pay off a student loan, and also my husband, Corbin, he was right out of military. So he wanted to have some job in private sector as well first. So we spent several years working in finance in New York. That was, big school, gaining a lot of experience very fast. Those were very busy years. And during that time, we attended the search fund conferences, and slowly, after a few years, we started preparing to making the switch. We got to know the investors, and we decided to do it together.
And were you always you said entrepreneurship was the ultimate goal. So were you always wanting to own your own business?
I think there were two paths in my career, and I'm happy that I satisfied both. First one was purely let's do the things that look really cool, and I want to prove that I can do them. Firstly, that was becoming an economist in the Czech Republic, appearing on television, being one of those smart people that say something on TV, but very soon you find out that anybody can say anything on TV, and it's actually not such a big deal.
No.
And then it was...
I still think those people are a big deal. They're not.
They are not.
Okay.
And then it was, okay, let's not talk about money. Let's really invest, and let's design the investment strategies. So that's why I wanted to make it to hedge fund world, and really be the one who can design these investment strategies. And I was always good at math, and I wanted to make some use of that. But again, once I was there, it was amazing experience. I liked my job in New York a lot. But after some time, you find out that you are moving money left and right, but you can't see tangible impact of what you do. You can't feel that you really did something useful. And, studying economics, I can justify, okay, based on economic theory, I'm contributing to more efficient use of capital, so I'm doing something useful. But you don't feel it every day. And that's what drew me to entrepreneurship. My dad used to run a business when I was a child. He started his business right after revolution from communism or socialism, from centrally planned economy to free market in 89. And my father is a very smart person. He could think up very sophisticated machines, but he didn't have any idea how to actually do business. Nobody had such idea after revolution. Nobody did. So he ended up signing personal guarantees, and when the business hit some troubles, he completely bankrupted both the company and he personally. And it was a story that I saw as a child, and so I saw both the good and bad. I saw the thrill and the excitement that comes with building your company, but also the huge risks. And my dad.
Did your family suffer during his bankruptcy? Was this a financially traumatic moment for everybody?
It wasn't only financially traumatic moment. We had strange people from Eastern Europe in black suits arriving at our door.
Wow.
And it was really a safety issue, and my dad ended up homeless, and it was like very very strange situation.
Wow.
And I think like part of me wanted to try that as well in different way and make it.
Wow, that's profound. Thank you for sharing. What of doing this together with your partner, with Corbin? That's husband and wife teams or partnered teams are not so common, although it does happen. What was that all about? Or was it just natural? We're going to be partners in life, so why not partners in business as well, sort of thing?
I think for us, it was the only way. I mean, when you have two ambitious individuals, it is so hard to find career that is fulfilling for both people.
Yes.
That places them on the same spot. I mean, if it wasn't for running business together, probably, I would either stay in New York in finance, or maybe I would try to run something on my own in Czech. Corbin would be drawn to general management, either in the US or maybe in Africa. It would be so hard to find jobs where we can be in the same town.
Yes. Your enthusiasm for search funds when you heard about them was not just the prospect of, buying a business, running it, and being able to do that. It also solved this other problem that you were already aware of or foresaw, that for two ambitious people, it was going to be hard to, somebody was probably going to be having to compromise on their career path. At any given point, what was that going to look like? This presented a solution.
Very much. And also, marrying an American, I knew that our life will have to be like between the countries. Maybe we spend some time in the US, sometime in Czech, and we need to be able to, live in both countries. And if we are to live in the Czech Republic for some time, there must be something interesting for both of us to do. And I can't think of any other job than running a company. I mean, maybe we could work for McKinsey or, do consulting for a little bit, but that's not like long-term career that either of us would want.
And I assume you're most specifically not talking about Corbin. For the years that you were going to spend in Czech Republic, what would he do? Maybe McKinsey, but he's likely to feel stifled professionally in the years that he's in the Czech Republic. Is that what you meant? Or maybe you too?
I'm talking about
Okay.
both of us, because after you work for investment firm in New York, it is not easy to find like equally challenging job in the Czech Republic. So it was definitely for both of us. I don't know what I would do otherwise either.
Great, Ivona. Well, let's now start turning our attention to the search itself. You mentioned you're on the other side now of your busy years in New York. You've gotten this incredible education, on-the-job education, this incredible experience. You're ready to search. What shape does your search take?
Well, so this is the time when we already know a lot of search investors, and we are starting to form a group of investors that we would like to work with, and we are starting to put together our thesis. And of course, the natural question is like, do we really want to do it in the Czech Republic? We were very much discouraged by investors from doing it in the Czech Republic, and we were told several times that they are going to support us if we do it in the US, and they are going to fund our search, but not in the Czech Republic. It is a very small country. There are not that many targets, and we didn't raise search fund in the end. We had to do self-funded because the investors just didn't believe that we would find anything.
Let me fill in some gaps there. So first of all, you had built a network of investors. I assume part of that started all the way back during Kellogg. You had this great business school, a business school where search funds are a thing, and there are search investors active there. And then you started going to conferences later. And so you were networking your way through the traditional search fund investor community, right?
Very much. We were networking through the traditional investors, really like the original group. And back then, search funds were not such a big thing. We are talking about 2016, 2017, and there was not ETA class at Kellogg at the time.
Great. Okay. And so you're looking at doing a traditional search fund with these folks, even though none of it is as mature as it is today, of course. And the audience will know, but a traditional search fund means that they fund your search. So it's $400,000 or $500,000. I don't know what it was at the time, that you can live off of, and they can go to your search and deal expenses while you find this business. And your investors say, not in the Czech Republic. We're not going to sign up for that. We're not going to give you the money to fund your search if you do it there. But you proceed anyway. Are you discouraged by this, or are you expecting this, or how do you react, and how do you decide to plow forward anyway?
I'm convinced that a big part of being a successful entrepreneur is not to be discouraged and really go after what you want. Actually, now when I look at investing in searchers myself, this is very much what I'm looking for, that the person is really committed. Even when he or she hears no, they will just go forward anyway. That's how much they want it. That's how much they want to become business owners. And this is exactly what was on our mind. Like we really, really want to do this. And if we have to do it alone, we will do it alone. We had many discussions whether it is better to do it in the US, but there were so many factors that made it better in the Czech Republic, and we believed we would be more successful in Czech because Corbin could bring the Western element, and many Czech companies lack the ability to market themselves to Western clients. Very, very often, Czech companies are great at engineering, but very weak in marketing and sales. So that's what we wanted to bring. Mm-hmm. And also my big motivation to do it in Czech was to bring back some of these values that I learned in Western Europe and in the US. I mean, when I was working in the US, I was amazed how people really believe in some values. They really value when things are done right, ethically, that you can do business in a clean way. When you shake hands, it really holds. And people in the Czech Republic are very skeptical. They lived under communism or socialism, to be precise, and that brought a lot of distrust in institutions and suspicion towards business motives. There is a saying that if you don't if you don't steal from the state, you are stealing from your own family. So there is still a mentality like that, or like a remainders of this mentality. And I really wanted to fight that. I wanted to show that you can be fair, transparent, and you can still be successful. That was my big driver, and that's why I wanted to come back.
Ivona, sometimes I gather that people become corrupted in systems not because they are themselves easily morally corruptible or that they're weak morally, but because the system imposes that to act within a system, you just have to behave that way. It's not that you want to be corrupt. So I wonder if the same might be true because of the remnants of this distrust and so forth in the Czech Republic, that despite your best efforts, there might just be certain structural realities that you can't escape in this environment, in the business environment of the Czech Republic. I'm completely speculating. Obviously, I know nothing about it. I'm just reacting to what you said. How do you react to that?
It is changing fast. I have big hopes in young generation. It is changing. What you said was true under the previous regime. Like corruption was just, part of everyday life, and it influences people decades afterwards. The more people try to fight it, and the more you can lead by example and show that it is not necessary, the better and the faster the change. Of course, I would be happier if it was changing faster, but there is hope.
Have you found situations as you're in your position as a business owner in the Czech Republic now, where you've had to make hard decisions about, do you go the wrong way versus the right way? But choosing the right way comes with consequences, comes with hard costs?
Small things, but nothing too dramatic that would cost us a lot. And that's because we deliberately chose a company to avoid any types of potential corruption. One of our criteria was that we don't deal with state at all, that our clients are at best Western institutions, Western companies, and we provide them, Czech services, and the buyer is from Western Europe or the US, and it works. We don't need to face these hard decisions. Excellent.
Thank you again for sharing, Ivona. This is great, and just very generous of you to be this is very personal stuff. Okay, you move to the Czech Republic. You decide you're not going to take no for an answer. In fact, not taking no for an answer is a key criterion for being a successful entrepreneur. Let's hear about the mechanics of the search, specifically with respect to searching in a market where businesses are not bought and sold. Anytime I've had a guest outside of the U.S. or kind of Western Europe-ish, there just isn't the awareness often by business owners that they can sell their business. There just isn't a liquid market or an active market of businesses, small businesses being bought and sold. Frankly, it's illiquid enough in the U.S., so let alone other places. Talk to us about just the difficulties or not, and maybe address your answer here to people thinking about doing it in smaller, less mature markets? The challenges or not of searching, the actual mechanics of searching in this environment?
I would say that business owners in Czech are aware that they can sell. It's
Okay.
Especially because of private equity companies that are very active, and they target even small companies. So even as a searcher, if you are looking at a company that has 1 million EBITDA, you will be competing against PE companies. So that's one thing. And the big advantage of Czech market is that data is publicly available. Companies have to file, and that makes very advantageous situation for a searcher when you can create databases. And with Corbin, we created this tool programmed in Python that scraped several databases, put the data together, and then filtered according to our criteria, including age of owner, number of employees, revenues, industry, and so on. So that was very nice tool.
Yeah, that's so. It seems like this is a feature. Every European searcher I've talked to has this, from Czech Republic to Spain to UK and everywhere, in Norway, everywhere in between. What a hack. I see it as a hack, but it's just a fact of life in Europe. So, or it seems like in most European countries. So is that like an EU thing, or is it just a cultural standard in European government that this is a requirement from nation to nation?
I'm not sure whether it's mandatory by EU or whether it's just country thing. But
okay.
In any case, it's very pleasant.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's very pleasant. Press a button, fill your CRM. Sounds great. So, okay. So back to this cultural point, owners are not surprised. Don't think that you're some sort of scammer when you approach them to buy their business. They're aware of what private equity is. They're aware of buying and selling businesses. Then is there anything more then to say about differences specifically that you think that you encountered in the Czech Republic from other markets, or not really? Do you feel like your search looked and felt like a search would in the UK or the US?
Obviously, the market is smaller, so we didn't have that many companies to go through. On the other hand, we hit a point where third-generation entrepreneurs after revolution were reaching retirement age, so the turnover was pretty good, and I think it's necessary everywhere that you need to build really close relationship with the seller. That's what we had to do. Of course, we had to do a lot of explaining where we are getting money for this. Do we even have money to buy the company? So we did what probably every first search fund in the country does. We had several newspaper articles so that when seller Googles us before our first meeting, there is something that pops up. They can see that, hopefully we are, legit people, and there is some explanation who we are, what we are doing, what is search fund. We were not exactly using the word search fund. Nobody knows search funds here. We were the first search fund in the Czech Republic. But at least they could see that there is some valid concept and that we have some real investors behind us. We created website. Our investors were generous enough to let us put their picture and bio on the website, so the sellers could check that we are real people with real money behind us.
What an interesting tactic! Newspaper articles. So say more about that, and how do you have a newspaper article written about yourself?
Well, it was actually pretty hard because all journalists were interested in my Wall Street story, and that was a big thing, how I made it to Wall Street and so on. But nobody really wanted to write about search funds and us trying to find a company. So it was almost okay, write my Wall Street story, but I want you to write about the search funds as well.
But did you have relationships with journalists from those days on TV? Like, how does this even come about? You had a Rolodex, you reached out and said, hey, I'm back, come tell my story? Like, what's your pitch, or how did it come together?
I used my network from university here in Czech. I had some friends there, so that was first avenue. But also for a couple of weeks, we actually hired PR company.
Okay.
That helped us with that as well. And it was very affordable thing to do. And we had old media, including Forbes, interested in our story. So it went pretty well.
In your story, really, your story of getting to Wall Street. Small town girl becomes economist, goes to Wall Street, comes home. Right?
Exactly.
Great. Well, good for you. Really, I'm quite impressed by the tactic for, I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure it would be, somebody could pull it off as easily here. Certainly PR companies are not, are expensive here. But anyway, the larger point is not, the larger point for the audience is not exactly that, you do follow what you guys did step by step, but that if you can have something online where there is some third party media credibility conferred, it's very helpful, because indeed, first thing people will do when they hear from you is Google you.
Exactly. And it's one of the points, everything is much more affordable in Czech than in the US, obviously, including these services. And when we moved from New York to Czech Republic, it was a huge drop in standard of living. We didn't have the backing during the search. So we had to do everything very, in a very cheap, efficient way. So even hiring PR company for a few weeks, it wasn't anything expensive here.
So back to not having a funded search, I did hear you say that your investors were generous enough to allow you to put them on your website. So what do you mean here that you had investors, but what we heard earlier? Yeah.
Right. That's confusing. It's actually our future investors at that point. So when we were meeting people at conferences and forming our future investor group, we came to like some investors, more than the others. It's very natural, and it was mutual feeling. So naturally, the group was selecting itself, and we were more in touch with some of these people, and those were the people that were okay, feel free to use our name if you need it, because if you find good target, we will support you. So we had this very soft at that point commitment that they didn't believe that we would find something, but if we do, they will likely support us.
That they'd be investors in your deal, but according to terms TBD, because they're not funding your search. So it was how that would all look, to be determined. But there was chemistry. They liked you. They respected you. If you found something, they wanted a call. They'd look at it, and they had enough confidence in you that they'd even let you call them your investors for the purposes of your search. Very interesting. And these investors are gonna make multiple appearances in this story. Okay. Before we hear about the business that you bought, I just quick sidetrack. There was an IT company that you looked at, which I thought kind of had an interesting little. It was an interesting little side story. Tell us about that and why you didn't buy it.
Yeah, it was the first company with which we signed LOI. It was the company that we found through our proprietary tool, scraping the databases.
The scraper.
And we found it at the exact right time when the CEO and co-owner was retiring, and they just started thinking about selling. And we started doing the due diligence. We like the company, but our potential investors didn't. So, they said it was too much dependent on the ability to hire additional IT people, and they just wouldn't want to buy this company. So we didn't buy it, but the deal was still nice. So we actually sold this deal to a local private equity company. And a few years afterwards, it turned out to be one of the best deals that this private equity company did.
And so I wanted to go ahead.
Yeah, the PE already sold this IT company, and it was one of their best investments ever.
Great. And so I wanted to understand why I thought this was interesting is because your investors, smart people. This is not to, act like, to armchair quarterback their decision making, but it's always a valuable exercise to post-mortem an investment, particularly when it does the opposite of what you think it's going to do. What do you think that they got wrong, your investors, about the investment? That in fact the hiring people was not going to be a bottleneck? What didn't they see?
I think they overestimated the IT hiring issue. It wasn't as bad in the end, and they didn't predict COVID. That helped IT companies in general.
Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, great. And just before we move off of this side story, tell us more about selling the deal. So you had the business under LOI. How far along was it? How did you price this finder's fee, I guess? And then how did you approach the PE company? Give us more on that. That's pretty interesting.
So we were at stage when I and Corbin were doing the preliminary due diligence. We didn't hire any external company for due diligence. We just didn't have money for it. For the due diligence, we would already have to raise money, so that was completely out of question. And at this point, going through due diligence and trying to put together the final investment group, we realized we can't. We just can't find people to invest in this. And when we already have this nice company that wants to be sold, and we knew about PE companies in the area, and the one with which we had the best relationship, we just approached, and we knew it fits their criteria, and it would be a good addition to their portfolio. So we approached them. We wrote, actually, I don't even remember whether we signed a contract with them or not about the finder's fee. In any case, we got it.
And what was the finder's fee, roughly? How is it priced?
Too low.
Okay. Because they did so well, or because you now know what finder's fees typically are, which I think is usually 1% to 2% of enterprise value upon successful.
Both. Yeah.
Okay.
We should have asked for more, and especially now when we know how successful investment it was.
Well, it's funny, Ivona, you're my second interview in 2 days where this situation has come up. Ruchik Gandhi, who I interviewed yesterday, but he was on the receiving end. So he bought his deal from a searcher, a couple of searchers who decided they couldn't close on their business, sold a signed LOI and a deal that was really far along to him. And so you guys are on the other side of that, but interesting to hear about these.
I think it's important, when you have something, especially when you are self-funded, but overall, when you have something, you try to do something and monetize it, right? We put a lot of work into this IT company, and it was just natural that we would try to, get some value out of it.
Well, and I think that that's a very important point. Ruchik and I talked about this in his interview, because I think it could be perceived trying to sell a deal under LOI as, opportunistic or too grabby. I think that's a naive perception, but I think that there could be people for whom it lands that way. But of course, a lot of it is you're not actually trying to profit. You're just trying to recoup your time and maybe actual hard expenses that you've poured into this deal.
Yes, and of course it matters how you do it. So if you are, very transparent with each party, and we talked to the IT company's CEO, we told him what we knew about the other private equity company, and it was just like very open discussion. And with the PE company, the agreement was that, if they close, if everything goes well, then we get finder's fee.
Okay, Ivona, how did you find the business that you would go on to buy?
Okay, so we talked about our sophisticated proprietary tool that we were very proud of.
Okay.
And we found our company through a broker. It's
right.
Always disappointing when I have to say this, but it is true. So we approached, of course, all the, big accountants and big brokers. But to us, the most helpful were the small local brokers. And I really want to emphasize this, because at first we didn't believe that these people were going to be very helpful. They, by business school standards, they didn't know much about transactions and finances. So at first we were skeptical, but then we realized that it wasn't their job to know about the transaction. Their job was to handhold the sellers through the process. And they are very good at that. So I really want to emphasize this to all searchers, like, don't discount these people, these local brokers that don't seem to have the knowledge that you do, because their ability to build relationship with the seller is very, very valuable. So we found this local broker who was, as we found out later, he was very motivated. He was then telling us a story how at the closing dinner, he promised to invite everybody, but his fee didn't hit yet and he didn't have money to pay.
Wow, this deal was his last dollar here. Okay.
Exactly. So like young, very motivated guy. He understood what we were looking for, and he put us in touch with a couple. It was a Czech and Dutch couple that owned actually two companies, but very closely interconnected. And then the negotiations lasted about half a year. It was a company in a sector that we didn't even know about before. Like if you asked me, a few years back, I wouldn't know that exhibition services are actually its own business sector, and there are so many companies involved in providing services for exhibitions and trade fairs. But although this was a very new sector to us, we liked it immediately. Compared to many other industries we looked at before, to us this was very fast-moving, live sector where you meet new people. It's like outward-facing. You meet a lot of clients from various industries. And it was in sharp contrast to some of the industries that we thought would be attractive. Because going into this, we thought we would be looking at aerospace, like highly engineered parts. That's what Czech Republic is good at, engineering, medical devices. But when we actually looked in detail at those companies, we realized that personally we wouldn't enjoy running them. Like especially the medical devices, the community there is very much about professors, doctors, some hierarchy, conferences, the same people over and over. That wasn't for us. We wouldn't enjoy it. And then suddenly this, exhibition services, something we didn't know existed, and it looked amazing. The company fulfilled all the criteria that we set out. Margins were good. It wasn't as capital intensive. Clients mostly from Western Europe. So we had to play a little bit with like a recurring revenue metric, because obviously recurring revenue is a big part of search funds. It's a very, very attractive criteria that you should fulfill.
Right.
And this company, it is a project-based, but the clients keep coming back. So it was like hard. Okay, it's not like subscription service where it's like clearly recurring. This was like harder to quantify and to really wrap our head around how much reoccurring the revenues really are. But in the end, we gained some comfort about this and decided that this is the company we want to run.
Because also, of course, events are always going to be going on. No pandemic. No pandemics are going to stop this train. So let's talk a little bit more about the strengths and weaknesses of the business. So, okay, doesn't have recurring revenue. So the quality of revenue, in quotes, is maybe not quite as sterling as we hope for, but strong reoccurring revenue. So you saw historical demonstration of high quality of revenue. Outward facing, meaning not outside the Czech Republic, or is it mostly, are the clients mostly Czech companies? Who's the client base?
No, mostly outside.
Okay.
It was important to us that it's export oriented.
Exactly. Yeah, so it had that export orientation that you talked about earlier. Corbin is going to bring his, sales and marketing prowess to that. And it's a weak spot for Czech companies, this interface, this marketing interface with the outside world. It doesn't do business with the government, which you also said was something to avoid. It in size. What were your criteria around size, and what can you share there?
Well, we couldn't be very picky. Private equity companies really look as low as 1 million in EBITDA. And this is about the size we acquired in the end. Actually, the company was, it was two companies, and we merged them together. So the two companies combined had like 4 million revenue, 4 million euros in revenue, about 30% EBITDA margin.
Wow, 30% EBITDA margin. That's great. That's a sizable business. The other thing I would guess in a smaller market, this has to be the case, that there's just, well, you already said, and your investors said, it's a smaller market. So finding a business with over $1 million of earnings, €1 million of earnings, that's a bigger business, right? That's a bigger business than it would be here. Like they're just would be considered by, in the marketplace to be a larger business than me seeing a $1 million business in the States.
Exactly. Anything over 1 million euro in EBITDA is considered a bigger business here in Czech. And one big advantage that search funds have over private equity and how they can beat PE firms in this competition is that searchers are willing to untangle incredible operational difficulties. And this was exactly a company like that. Private equity company, I think they could hardly buy this business because it was so operationally complex and so dependent on their current owners that it would be really hard for PE company just to send external CEO out there and hope for the best.
This complexity, though, is searchers can tolerate it. Searchers are going to get in there and run it, but it's still not a good thing. So I guess that you would consider that a weakness of the business as you looked at it, just a weakness that you could tolerate, that you were willing to go in there and deal with.
We considered it a challenge. We didn't see it as a weakness. We saw it as our competitive advantage. Thanks to this complexity, we developed a good relationship with the sellers because they could see us as somebody gradually that they could trust, handing over, what they built over the years and employees and everything. And they also started enjoying teaching us about the business. And it made for a very smooth transition. The Dutch lady was naturally teaching Corbin how to run sales, and the Czech guy was teaching me how he does operations. And it was complex, but he couldn't wait. We liked it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great, that's great. And what about number of employees and age of business?
There were around 30, maybe 35 employees at the time when we bought it. And age of business, do you mean when it was established?
Yeah.
Right after Revolution. So actually last year or the year before, we celebrated 30 years of the business.
Oh, okay, great. Maybe you said that, but I missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it ran for a few years under the name of the founder, and then later on it renamed itself, to the company name. And recently we celebrate 30 years. Congratulations
to the business and to everyone and to you guys. Ivona, on this point about former Soviet businesses, this is something I've heard a couple people, searchers in former Soviet countries say, that there is this interesting phenomenon where the boomers now, or those who started their businesses after the fall, so in the early 90s, that really that's the first, as you kind of already said about your own father, that was the first generation. This is the first generation. Those retiring today are the first generation, really, of business owners. And I don't know what more. Is there anything more to say about that other than just stating it? Is there some psychological aspect that plays a role there? I just think it's so interesting that it's that these are all the very first kind of capitalists.
For me, I have really high respect to these people. Those were the very first risk takers in this country. Those that were not so influenced by the, hopelessness and skepticism coming out of communism. I really respect what they built. I respect that they had the courage to get into it. Some of them still around the companies, of course. Some of them retired, and it's a fascinating time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often that, economy system changes, and this is really first transition
exactly.
that our country is going through when these companies are being sold for the first time. So maybe one cultural thing, I think it is everywhere, but maybe these people are even more connected to the business and treat it even more as their own child.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might be possible.
Okay, Ivona. So you find this business. Oh, and I wanted to highlight one other thing that you have said now a couple of times, which I like to call the X factor. Just your enthusiasm. It just really awakened you and Corbin. And we talk a lot about, of course, the merits of a business. We in Searchland, we talk about the merits of the business, and we interrogate its strengths and weaknesses, its quality of revenue. We talk about what skills or industry experience a searcher might bring and plug into that business, and how there can be a nice pairing there, and the importance of that if you can get it. But the X factor is just raw enthusiasm and that sort of, you like it because you like it. Like, yeah, you can articulate it. You did articulate why you liked it, but part of it is just kind of ineffable, and it's about chemistry, and you just felt that for this business and having that excitement, so that you guys are, ready to get out of the bed in the morning and go work on it rather than building medical devices. That is really valuable, and it doesn't get as much play maybe as it should. Fair? Do you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. And I look for it in searchers that we invest in at the moment. I think it must be so hard to succeed without this.
Mm-hmm. Because it's hard enough with it. So it's been that hard, huh? Well, we're about to hear. So, we still can't even hear about your operations in COVID, because let's hear about the structure of the deal before we get into your actual ownership. So how did you structure this? You have these tentative investors. How do they react?
So when we started doing like preliminary due diligence on this business, we informed our tentative investors, and we could see that there would be sufficient interest in this company. So they made us confident, and we raised money for the first time for the due diligence when we hired external legal and accounting companies. So that's when we raised money from the now final investor group. And then after the due diligence was done, they had the right to proceed with the acquisition. It was just a couple of months. There was just a couple of months between these two moments. So that was on the investor side. On the bank side, big advantage of local market is that banks are used to lending to small businesses. So we could actually get a 60% bank loan, senior loan. So that was very nice. And then we structured 25% seller note. So the equity was 15% in the end.
Okay. A few things there. Equity first. So your investors, you raised some money that would go to deal expenses. You needed it to do the financial due diligence, the Q of E. And then if you were to proceed with the deal, then you would raise equity again for the actual deal itself, for the cap table.
Correct.
Great. And and then what you said about the banks and how it's actually easy because they're used to lending to small businesses. I feel like I haven't heard that in smaller markets, that in fact it's that much harder to raise acquisition financing for first-time buyers. So I don't know if I'm wrong or if it's just it's very market dependent. But interesting that you found it, because in our pre-call I said, "Wow, it must have been so hard to go out and get debt for this," and you were like, "No, actually, that part was easy."
Yeah. I'm surprised myself that even in more mature, more developed markets, sometimes searchers come and they say, "Oh, I can get only 30% leverage." So it must be function of local market. So Czech banks are used to this, and also the company had some property, so that helps. Like the company owned its own land and buildings. So the bank had some collateral.
Yeah.
It would be far from like covering the loan, but there was something.
Yeah. Great. And now going back to the equity for a second and the investors. So as we recall, the investors said, "No, thank you. We're not going to fund your search here because Czech Republic's a small market. But we'll entertain, if you find a deal, we'll entertain it." You guys found a deal, they entertained it. But they still have to, so they even if they like the business and they like you and all of that checks out, they still have to think about how they're going to get a return on the capital, how they're going to get their capital back and a return on that capital. And so they have to think about your exit of this business, of course. And being in a smaller market, so that challenge remains, that how liquid is this investment going to be on the other end? Now, you've already told us that private equity is quite active in the Czech Republic. Maybe that's the answer. But how did they, you just because you found a good deal doesn't mean you've escaped the sense of kind of a ceiling or a limitation to a small market.
Yes, well, as for the exit, like from the beginning, we've been talking about two options. Either the investors sell their stake to like another buyer, plenty of PE companies or family offices in the Czech Republic, or I and Corbyn will want to buy them out. So those were the two options. They are still on the table. So especially seeing how active family offices and PE are in the Czech Republic, we were comfortable that exit options will be there.
One last question on how you structure this, Ivona. I guess the terms that you got with investors, when you have a deal in hand, that usually strengthens your hand with respect to your investors. It's no longer speculative. You actually have a deal that they can look at. Did that strengthen your hand? Did you get different terms than you would have otherwise had you just gone into this in a traditional search fund?
It is very common that as a self-funded searcher, you get better terms than a traditional searcher, but we didn't. We are under very traditional terms, and the reason is that we were very particular about our investor group. We wanted those investors who said that they would come into any deal only under traditional terms. So we basically exchanged potential for better terms for having really high quality investors. So that was trade-off that we made, and we are happy with it. I think it worked out very well.
When you buy the business and get in the business, is it the business you thought it was?
The sellers were very upfront. We still have a very good relationship. So there were things that were not completely expected, but sellers were very open about them. And there were also some funny things like, we would arrive at the company and we found out that there is a herd of sheep. Like we literally have 6 sheep on the property. Little things like that, or storage halls are full of stuff, although balance sheet is empty. Things like that, but nothing too major. Nothing major. So the transition was pretty smooth.
Okay. By the way, one thing that I didn't underline is that you bought this from a husband and wife. You are a husband and wife. So there was this, I presume, a pretty natural division of labor where your future roles mapped onto, well, I guess you already said, the husband was teaching you how to do ops. The Dutch wife was teaching Corbyn how to do sales. So you guys just mapped your future roles onto how the division of labor already was.
Exactly. Yeah. And also it helped because the employees were not very surprised, or for them it was very natural to have another couple running the company.
Yeah. And by the way, another thing I wanted to ask about in terms of searching in a smaller market, in many countries, smaller countries, there's the capital. In of course, your case, it's Prague. And then almost the entire national economy, half the GDP could be in that city, maybe more in many nations' cases. So were you searching in Prague or were you searching elsewhere? Where is the business?
We were searching throughout the whole country. And it's interesting in the very beginning, when we still had hopes that we would raise search capital, we actually claimed that we would search in the Czech Republic, Slovakia, southern Germany, and maybe southern Poland. Of course, that was, as we found out later, that would be complete nonsense. You only need to focus on one country, and but we couldn't limit the country to, only to capital or only to big cities. And Czech Republic is actually like divided. There are some industries that are, far from Prague. So we were searching across the whole country. And our thinking was that we are getting out of New York. We are not city people. We didn't, enjoy living on Manhattan. So we are happy to, move to some village, close to a factory. But in the end, we are happy that we ended up pretty close to Prague. Like being really in the middle of nowhere might have been too much. So we ended up around 40 kilometers from Prague. So still easy access to the city of Prague. And we are in this village or small town just outside.
With herds of sheep in the company parking lot sort of vibes.
Exactly. That grew since then.
That what? That has grown since then.
Yeah. And from time to time, we have a barbecue with the employees and to decrease the herd again.
Took me a second. Okay. Watch your back,
it
sheep.
Took a few years to some employees as well. Some poor secretary was for several years under the impression that she was eating a pig.
Wait, are we serious now?
I'm absolutely serious. The guys convinced her that this is a pig and that they didn't make sausages from the sheep that she was petting. Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy. To COVID, then. Let's hear what this business that we haven't been super clear about what the business does. Booth design and manufacture or fabrication for events, right?
Correct.
Okay, great.
So we do everything from designing the booth, project management, producing the booth. We have a team of carpenters, electricians, metalsmithers, and then we travel to the venue to assemble the booth. So mostly we travel to Western Europe, but also to the US or Middle East. We assemble the booth, and after the trade fair, we take it down and take it back to our premises, store parts of the booth that are going to be reused, and wait for another exhibition. So this is how it works. And it's also why I mentioned that operations are so complex, because we have so many different departments and teams within a company.
All right, right. And just going back on quality of revenue a little bit, it would seem that this business is very cyclical because it's tied to marketing. Events are a marketing expense for businesses, and marketing is kind of notoriously one of the first expenses to be cut in a belt tightening moment in a soft economic environment. So was there cyclicality related to kind of overall health of economy with this business?
Not at all.
Oh,
not at all, and for two reasons. Firstly, we are careful to select the clients in industries that are not cyclical. So we have, strong presence in, defense, chemicals. We are not doing like flashy industries. We are not doing automotive, for example. Automotive would be very cyclical. We don't want to be exposed to that. So first reason is selection of clients. And a second reason is that exhibition organizers design it in such a way that if you don't attend 1 year, you lose your spot. Mm-hmm. So these companies have worked for years to get the premier spot in the exhibition hall, and just 1 year they will miss and their spot is gone. And then, when they decide to come again, they will be in some dark corner in a small exhibition hall, and they will not have the spot with the most traffic.
Very interesting. Okay. And so you guys will actually decline new business from industries that you don't want to participate in?
Well, we wouldn't actively search such business. We are very selective. Like salespeople have instructions what industries to target.
Okay. So what happens to a business like this in COVID?
Yeah. So we bought it in 2018. we had a very nice 2019, and early 2020, we were actually on the way to Barcelona to a very big technology show, and like we were watching this virus spreading in Asia and hoping it wouldn't make it here, and obviously it did. Suddenly we had to turn several trucks on the way to Spain. They had to just turn around because the exhibition was cancelled, and then one after another, all exhibitions were cancelled. And within 1 week, our revenues and forecasted revenues dropped to zero. There was nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. No events, complete ban, and our complete pipeline just went out of the window.
Wow. And so what did you think? What was your emotional state like in those moments? Did you think that was the end?
At first, in February 2020, we still hoped that COVID will not last that long, that maybe in a few months, events can come back. But yeah, a couple months afterwards, it was clear that wasn't going to happen. And by summer, it was clear that for the whole year 2020, there would be no exhibitions. So our reaction was to, first of all, you want to do what is right, keep everybody safe and make sure that people are cared for, and then you start thinking how not to bankrupt. And we, from both ends, revenues and costs, we had to act. So on the revenue side, we were looking for any potential revenue stream. We were thinking through our capabilities. Okay, so what else can we do? We have carpenters. So, okay, let's produce kitchens for people. We have metalsmithers, maybe we can do these metal pergolas. We have designers and we have project managers. So we learned how to do virtual products. We started doing virtual showrooms. And some of these jobs were not profitable much. Some of these jobs hardly covered salaries of people doing them. But they were very important to keep the morale up. People had to feel useful. It wasn't possible to, just send people home, and that just wouldn't be good for psyche. And on the cost side, we did negotiations with, completely everybody from suppliers, accounting company that did accounting for us, and all the rent. And the biggest fear that we had was what the bank was going to do, because we were highly leveraged at that point. And this is where investors proved to be very, very helpful. I'm really grateful for this time because the investors didn't force us to do some big layoffs. They didn't push some dramatic downsizing of the company, and they helped us think through negotiation with the bank. And those are things that, as a young entrepreneur that never went through crisis like that, you don't think of these things, because with Corbin we feared interaction with the bank. The bank can literally bankrupt us if they chose to. We knew we were not going to comply with the covenants. We knew that if the bank pushes the loan agreement, we are out of business. So we thought that we would be in a really disadvantaged position coming to these talks with the bank. Yeah, but then our investors, they talked to us and they helped us think through it. And it would never occur to us to arrive at a meeting with a banker and basically put a gun to their head and tell them that, okay, if you don't agree to our modified terms, you are going to lose your loan completely because we are walking away. So it was thanks to investors that we had the courage to be so aggressive in negotiations, which ultimately saved us. We put together much darker predictions that we would have otherwise. And we were so aggressive in negotiations with the bank that, in the end, the bank was okay. Of course, no installments. We are, happy if you pay interest if you can, and we could completely stop worrying about the bank payments for some time. So,
wow, that was really some coaching they gave you. What about the seller note, the renegotiation of the seller note?
Yes. So COVID was much longer than we thought, than we hoped for. And then when it was very hard for me and Corbin, because we could see our, effort and our commitment coming to waste, right? So we have this company that is hardly making any money. I think we managed to stay at zero in the end. We were not in any big loss, but still you are wasting your energy and time on something that you don't know whether it will make money again. And then we thought, actually it was Corbin's idea, I have to give him credit, that we need to be committed, of course, not only because of employees and because this is our responsibility to take care of the company, but also we have to decide, okay, so are we really 100% in? Do we believe that exhibitions will come back? And we had to answer yes to this, because fundamentally we believe that human contact is a real natural human need. And if you want to do business, you want to shake somebody's hand before you close a big deal. And we really did believe that exhibitions will come back. And if you believe that, then okay, let's go 100% in. Let's approach the former owners and ask them to buy back the seller note. And we approached them at the time when it was still not clear whether COVID will go away and whether exhibitions will ever come back. So it was still at a time when it was not sure whether we will make it or we will bankrupt. And thanks to this huge uncertainty, we were able to negotiate a huge discount, and we bought back the seller note for such a big discount that it effectively decreased the purchase price of the company by a turn.
By a third?
By a turn.
By a turn.
Yeah.
Because the seller note had been what percentage?
25%.
25%.
Yeah. And we bought back this seller note in exact proportions to the equity ownership, so that there was there were no conflicting incentives, so that the new debt holders had the same percentage ownership as the equity investors. So the percentages were
right. So you guys,
same.
you bought it. You as an entity bought this debt. No, the investors bought it. The investors bought it. So you still had a debt.
And me and Corbin. So
I
the
see.
company still had the debt, but the debt was to be paid out to the investor group, not to the former owners.
Right. In the investor group, everybody on the cap table included you guys personally.
Exactly.
And you bought this seller note, and that value was allocated according to the cap table, so proportionate with the cap table.
Correct.
And you bought it at a significant discount, such that the new loan, the new interest payments or payments servicing of this loan by the business was going to be dramatically reduced. As you said, it effectively reduced the purchase price of the business by a turn. And did you tell us how many turns you bought the business for? What multiple you bought the business for?
Well, we bought it for what you would expect for a company of this size.
Okay. So anywhere from, you call it 3 to 5. So reducing that by a turn is very significant.
It is significant.
Mm-hmm.
And our investors were also helpful at putting this into perspective. Because if you imagine this is, during COVID, the outlook is still very dark. It's, very, very emotionally draining experience. And we are after years of, trying to keep the morale up, trying to keep the company together, trying to keep, the employees engaged, and trying to transfer to them the energy that we don't have ourselves. And it was a very hard time. So it really helped when investors put it in perspective, oh, okay, so if we actually, if you guys succeed in completing this seller note buyback, it is as if COVID never happened. The financial impact is such that we don't need to be worried about COVID. It's, and
you mean because whatever valuation discount on the business that COVID would cause is now what you effectively paid for the business?
Yeah, it's because we basically decreased the purchase price, and it's as if we made up for the lost EBITDA during COVID.
Oh, of course, because when you said it would basically amounted to a turn is a year of EBITDA. And if COVID is a complete wash for a year, you've just made up that money in the turn that you recaptured by the discount from the seller. Okay.
Exactly. And so that helped. It helped just, put it in perspective and not be so depressed.
Yeah. Of course, I imagine that the damage from COVID lasted longer than a single year. Or not?
It did. Yeah, it did.
Yeah. But it's still a great perspective. And by the way, Corbin's prompting of this kind of fork in the road, and so not kind of muddling your way through with kind of a middling enthusiasm. It's like let's either cut bait, quit, and because we don't believe this industry is ever going to come back, so let's cut our losses and move on. Or we do believe it's going to come back, in which case let's act as if, let's actually turn this from crisis to opportunity. Maybe, I'm not sure he said that, those are my words, but it's like if you decide that human contact events are always going to be a feature of business life and that events will eventually come back, this actually does turn into a moment of opportunism if you can survive, because it's I think it's Warren Buffett says, a blood in the streets moment, right? Where you buy when everyone's scared and you sell when everyone's confident, sort of thing. And there was sadly literal death and destruction during COVID. But if you can survive and even make moves and be aggressive during this time, you can emerge on the other side in a very, very strong position with respect to the rest of your industry. Fair? Did you all ever see it that way?
That's right. And we absolutely profited from our competitors being less confident in the industry.
Yeah.
Because we managed to keep our employees during COVID, and we started ramping up much sooner than the others.
Yeah.
So when exhibitions did come back, we were ready, and we succeeded in capturing much bigger market share. So it's only now that we see bigger competition and more companies on the market. And but the first year after COVID, we were in a great position. We were gaining many clients, and other companies were pretty much asleep.
Yeah, exactly. Ivona, you had said earlier that you weren't even aware of this industry as an industry, the idea that there are companies devoted just to designing, building, deploying booths for conferences. You're actually not my first guest to have bought a business like this. Actually, in two podcasts, in Minds Capital, our sister podcast, an independent sponsor bought a kind of a similar business. So three searchers/sponsors who have bought these types of businesses. But Adam Rao on the Acquiring Minds interview from just a few months ago, same thing. Their business just revenue fell to absolute zero. But I don't recall the details, but I think it was they held on and they just positioned themselves well to when things started coming back. Whereas, the competition, the playing field has been cleared. Weaker players have gone out of business or have decided to just shut down. Employees have gone on to other businesses, other jobs, taken other jobs. So it does have this culling effect. And if you can remain, if you can survive in the industry, the competition is a lot thinner on the other side. So something
very
to
much.
that.
And also, even the companies that did survive COVID, some of them, especially in Western Europe, they survived because very early on they received a lot of state subsidies.
Yeah.
So they were fine, but they lost the hustle mentality, or they got a little bit lazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys were putting up pergolas to stay alive.
Exactly.
Great. Well, Ivona, we're wrapping up. Why don't we hear what has happened since? I know that it's been now 3 years, 3 more years since COVID, I guess, really sort of came to an end in your industry. Although maybe not. Maybe there's still a tail of COVID effects. But tell us what has happened since.
So after COVID, we started growing. We returned to the growth, and right now we almost tripled revenues, and we doubled EBITDA.
From when you bought it, from pre-COVID.
When we bought it, yes. So
not from zero during COVID.
Exactly.
Okay.
And now we say
that's amazing.
That every problem we face right now, it's a good problem. Like really, compared to COVID, now anything happens, we always smile and this is good problem to have. This is great that we can even have these problems and solve them. Like compared to COVID, any issues, if it's even when something goes wrong with operations or the everyday problems, they are all good problems to have.
Yeah.
And now we can really think about strategic growth and what, how do we grow more? Do we want to grow more organically? Do we, buy another company, or do we outsource more, or do we build another factory of ours? So now we are faced with these decisions, and it's a delight to have decisions like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Good problems versus bad problems. Bad problems, existential problems, survival, that would qualify as a bad problem. And now you have good problems. By the way, so if you've tripled revenue and doubled EBITDA, you didn't tell us exactly what your EBITDA was, but quick math, north of €1 million. So today you'd be north of €2 million. We talked about how being above 1 million would make you a much bigger company in the Czech Republic than say in the US. And you said, yeah, it's a pretty big company. So now you're an even bigger company. I mean, you're quite a big operation for the Czech Republic in particular. Yes?
Yes. I mean, there are maybe few thousand companies that are bigger than ours. The market is very small. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Anything to say about doing this with your husband? Speak directly to that dynamic. We've talked about it in the plot, but not the realities and the emotional maybe relational dynamics there. Anything to say about it?
Well, I wouldn't be able to do this alone. I think it's important to do it with somebody you trust, with somebody you can discuss in the evenings. I mean, being a CEO is pretty lonely job. So it's very helpful when you have somebody to discuss and complain to. And so I think for us, it worked out very well. We actually, people always ask, isn't it, don't you see each other too much?
Right.
But, we have separate offices. Corbin is in charge of marketing and sales. I'm in charge of operations. The responsibilities are split. And there is big advantage of, we are working for the same goal. So, if I have to stay late, if Corbin has to stay late, we understand why. There is never, oh, where are you? We were supposed to, do this with the family. I'm not no, stay there and solve this. It is important, that you solve this. So we really have very aligned incentives in our all life, both family and work. And I think that very much contributes to happy marriage.
Yeah, great. Yeah, because of course, family time and work time are often in tension for ambitious people. And you all have an alignment that the rest of us don't. It's always a zero-sum game between an hour with our family versus an hour at work. And
people always ask us how we divide the time, whether we talk about work all the time.
Right.
And it started like that we would really talk about work at home almost nonstop. And now we developed a habit of, are you in mood talking about this? And we just ask each other, okay, can we discuss work now, over dinner or something? And the other one is free to say no, now I want to focus on kids, let's not talk about work. Mm-hmm. So it works very well.
And what do you think your kids as an audience to all of this, what are they seeing? What do you think they'll take away from being witness to all this?
Above all, they see happy parents. Happy parents that have good relationship with each other. I think that's the most important thing for the kids. I believe that it's crucial that kids observe marriage as a happy interaction, happy relationship. It's, in my mind, more important than devoting time to kids themselves. I think it's very important that they observe the relationship between mother and father. Maybe it will also inspire them in terms of what they want to do, what they want to achieve. And yeah, we will see. It's very soon to tell what they will want to do. I hope that they will get some inspiration from this.
Excellent. Anything we didn't hit on, Ivona, that you wanted to say?
I would like to encourage all searchers, because it's been incredible for my life, and it's very hard, but it is worth it.
Great note to end on. Congratulations to you and Corbin for many things along the journey, for not taking no and finding a business in the Czech Republic, surviving COVID, of course, and then on the other side of it, growing beautifully, keeping all those people employed, showing your kids a happy marriage, figuring out how to navigate owning a business together. There's just a lot of resilience and success here. So congratulations to you both, and thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Will.
Hope you enjoyed that interview. Don't forget to subscribe to the Acquiring Minds newsletter. We send an email for every episode with an introduction to the interview, a link to the video version on YouTube, and soon, key takeaways, numbers, and more essentials from the interview for those of you who don't have time to listen or watch it. Subscribe at acquiringminds.co. You'll also find all our webinars there on the website, both those we have coming up and recordings of past webinars. At this point, there are over 30 webinar recordings, a wealth of information on all the technical nitty-gritty of buying a business. acquiringminds.co.